Okay, time for a review of some of the stuff that we did in Lab 5. So in other words, creating a Java program in NetBeans that is going to be able to use the GUI designer, the graphical user interface designer, from the template. And then we'll also talk a little bit more about if statements. So from the schedule page here, if you click on this link to Java Programming Resources, that gets us to this page. And for any program that uses the GUI designer, you want to have this mu frame with GUI designer.zip file. Now, if part of Lab 5, you probably already downloaded this, but I just wanted to illustrate it again in case you need. You don't have to do it every time, because once you have it in your the place where you keep your Java programs, then you download it once, but then you can use those starter files over and over again. So if I right click on this, choose save link as, or save target as, and I'm going to browse to my CSC 120 Java folder. That's where I'm going to store it. Mine happens to be on the H drive, but you might have it in some other location. And I will save this zip file. Then, using File Explorer, I will go to that folder, and now I have this zip file. If I right-click on the zip file and choose Extract All, okay, it's going to default to this name in my Java folder, which is fine. And I'll leave that box checked. Click Extract, and now it opens up a new window here. And so here are the 3 files that I would need for my starter program. And so once I have unzipped that or extracted them, I never need to download it again. So what I can do, I have created in NetBeans, I have started a new project called GUI Demo, which I saved in my normal place. So right now the source folder is empty, nothing in the source folder. But if I go to here and I get these, so I copy these 3 files, muframe.form, muframe.java, and mupanel.java. If I copy those 3 files and I browse to the GUI demo, that's the project I'm working on, source folder, and paste it in, and they show up in NetBeans. Now the .form file doesn't show up in the tree. It only shows the .java, but you need the .form file to use the GUI designer. Okay, now if I double click on muframe.java, that will open this up as an editor window. And because it's using the designer, notice I have this extra design tab here in the editor window. And this gives me the palette over here and where I can drag things. And so let me make this a little wider. And I can make that a little wider. And then let me take a button and drag it down into my screen area. And now, when I am going to work with a button, there are 3 things to change after I drag it in there. Notice the text on the button is just a default J button 1 or J button 2, J button 3, whatever I would have there. So I don't want that. I want that to be a descriptive name. So what if I right click and choose Edit Text? Now that will allow me to change what is displayed on the face of the button. Okay, so let's say add 10 to X. Okay. It's also good to give the method or a descriptive name, or I should say the variable a descriptive name. So if you right click and choose change variable name, I'm going to call this the add 10 button. Okay. So you always want to, when you bring a button in, you always want to right click and edit text so you get the descriptive thing on the face of the button and change variable name. Now with buttons, what you can do, if you left double click on the button, it goes into source view, but it adds this method for us, which is an action performed for the button that I just added. Okay, and so what I can do is I can put in some code at this point that will happen, and this code will be executed when the button is clicked. Now, this is in the source. This is in the MU frame program, so I can go up here, and this is like a regular program, and so I can enter, I can declare data, I can instantiate it, and call methods. So let me make a new private integer called x. Okay. And in my MU frame constructor, I'm going to say x equals, I don't know, 17. Okay. And then the frame does not have a paint component. In other words, the frame is just a container for the MU panel. Okay, and so what I can do now is in my add 10 button action performed, I can say, all right, x equals x plus 10, and then system.out.println x is now equal to plus x. Okay, so every time the button is clicked, it will execute this particular code. Okay, and actually, let me go up here and say system.out.println x starts with the value plus x. Okay. All right, let's run the program. Okay, and now notice here we still have this hello world. That is part of the MU panel. So if you don't want that to show up, we can go in the MU panel and delete that. But I have this button here that says add 10 to x, and notice in the Java console, the system.out.println, it says x starts with the value 17. Now every time I click this, it will execute the button action performed method. So it will add 10 to x and then print out the new value of x. So add 10, x is now 27, x is now 37, 47, etc. Okay. So if we go into MU panel, this is the same MU panel that we saw before, so you can declare, instantiate, and then you can draw things. So we have this draw string here, so let me get rid of that draw string. That way nothing will show up. And then if I go back to MU frame, in my source, let's go back to the designer, and let's add another button. Oop, oop, oop. I want to close this so I can see the bottom here. And let's drag this button down here. Now remember the 3 steps. Edit the text, subtract 5 from x, and right click and change the variable name. Let's call this the subtract 5 button. And then if I double click, left double click on this, it will create a new action performed for that button. And what I probably want to do is something similar to this. So let's do the copy, and then I can paste. But instead of adding 10, this time I want to subtract 5. And if I run the, now you don't run the panel. If you run the panel, nothing happens. So you have to run the MU frame. That's the program part that we run. Now I have add 10 to x and subtract 5 from x. X starts with 17, so if I subtract 5, it's now 12. Then if I add 10, it's 22, 32. Subtract 5, 27, then it's 22, then it's 17, then 12, 7, 2, negative 3, negative 8. And if I add 10, it goes to 2. Let's keep subtracting here a bunch of times. And then if I add 10, it becomes negative 58, negative 48. Cool? Okay. So that's a little demonstration of using the GUI designer to drag controls from the panel or the palette, I should say, and put them in our MU panel. Okay.